The 8-day Amgen Tour of California half done with this fourth stage, the longest stage on the agenda of 210 kilometers between Sonora and Clovis. And there was plenty of action on what is the hottest day of the race, Paul.
I'd have to say probably one of the toughest days of the race so far as well, with almost 5,000 meters of climbing. Never really going very much more than 700 or 800 meters in altitude, but it was the repetitive nature of this event made it a tough day in the saddle.
It did. Originally there were 11 riders clear for much of the way, but too many important men in the escape. They were brought back, and as they came over the last climb of the day, the Crane Valley Road, the field was still splitting up, but they were never far behind. A little breakaway getting underway here with Yannick Eisen in the breakaway.
Second group on the road, Bram Tankink, Michael Kerel and Brian Van Borg trying to get across the gap. Brian Van Borg, one of those riders at only 30 seconds from the overall lead.
Yes, probably the presence of Brian Van Borg that signalled the marshals back in the main field to keep this race under control. The gap is now 40 seconds, and 30 seconds was the advantage, or disadvantage if you like, overnight of Van Borg. At the top of the final climb of the day up the Crane Valley, the three leaders were only a few seconds ahead of the field as they were fighting to regroup. But shortly, Paul, there would be 6 men getting it together.
Over the top of the climb, the 6 men formed together, but the pressure on the field by Team Liquigas Cannondale had left a lot of the team sprinters behind. Tom Bonen went over the top of the first climb almost 1.5 minutes behind the rest of the pack.
The 6 men, George Bennett, Thomas Peterson, Michael Rodriguez, Bram Tankink, Brian Van Borg and Michael Kerel were now together, but there was still a long way to go to the finish.
Well, on this occasion, all of a sudden, Liquigas Cannondale decided this was too dangerous. They wanted to make sure they could pull the whole of the race back together and try and charge into the city of Clovis as a one main group. But it was a long, hard chase, but they eventually succeeded by pulling back the 6 leaders, and it was all back together for the eyes down for the running towards the finish.
Yes, blue skies. They'd run along the edge of the Yosemite National Park. They were in the Sierras, and now the roads were against long breakaways. The field had regrouped at high speed, and there was no delays as far as the peloton was concerned as they sped down towards the finish in Clovis. The race was more or less all together.
The cool school kids are getting a free 1 hour away from school to enjoy the race going by in the snow-capped mountains of the Sierras in the background as the riders move past the very cool and refreshing Millerton Lake.
Yes, but they wouldn't see what our helicopter was seeing. They were speeding away on Highway 49, way down below, and just 18 kilometers out. The big question now being asked, could the man, Peter Sagan, the leader of the race and winner of 3 days out of 3 so far, make it 4 in a row? Well, Dave Zabriskie thought the answer was no. He attacked just inside 5 kilometers from the finish.
There are not many men in the world of professional cycling who can hold off a charging bunch on the way into town, but Dave Zabriskie, as a specialist in the individual time trial, is certainly one of those. This was done with a two-pronged idea to try and put a little bit of pressure onto the other teams to chase him down, but also to give his Australian teammate Heinrich Hausler, already 3 times second in this race, a free ride to the line.
Heading towards the last kilometre, though, they were reeling in Dave Zabriskie, but had he hurt the sprinters, had he hurt Peter Sagan in favour of his teammate Heinrich Hausler, who for the last 3 days has finished second to Peter Sagan. Now it was eyes down for another big mass sprint to the line.
Everybody getting a little bit confused as they went under the Kenda 1 kilometre to go sprint on the run in towards the finishing line. Only 2 bends left before it ended up with an 800 meters charge to the finishing line. And it looked on this occasion as if all of a sudden Argos Shimano were going to be the riders to get it right.
They had in third wheel there Marcel Kittel. We haven't seen too much of him yet, but he's a very fast sprinter. But take your eye to the centre of the head of this race as all of a sudden Peter Sagan is moving up, and trying to get on his back wheel there is Heinrich Hausler, locking in as the launch for by Daniel Oss, the Italian teammate of Peter Sagan, as they make the rush for the line. Now Heinrich Hausler in third place seemed in a perfect position, but you know, this man, when he puts the turbo into action, nobody it seems can get over him. 4 stages out of a possible 4 for Peter Sagan, 4 second places for Heinrich Hausler. For the record, the third place rider over the line was Michael Matthews of Australia and Team Rabobank.
Well, that meant another 10-second time bonus grabbed by the champion of Slovakia, so that makes his big lead 40 seconds over most of the other pre-race favourites, and that on the eve of the very important individual time trial around Bakersfield.
There's the situation now as we go in to the important individual time trial. Sagan, over most of the favourites for this race, has an advantage of 40 seconds. He'll also be the last man to start when we restart the time trial at Bakersfield tomorrow.